My name is Laura, and today we're going to be talking about mamas and sons. With us today we have Natasha and Kodovo. Now let me try to do an initial quick introduction, and then each of you can kind of expand on it. Now Natasha she's an actress, and she also is studying theater, from my understanding, at Kennesaw, and she's also a retired military vet. And then we also have Kodovo. Now let me make sure, is it Kodovo or Kodovo? I need to make sure. Kodovi, that's it, okay. Kodovi is,
Kodovi.
She's an instructor. She teaches art, and she also is an extremely awesome artist. And she has kids. So Natasha, you can go ahead and continue your introduction, and then Kodovi, you're free to continue your introduction, as I probably have kind of to both of your introductions. But go ahead, Natasha, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, yes, I am a student studying theater at Kennesaw State. Yes, I was in the military for 5 years. After I separated from the military, I did, however, start a women's organization with my mom and sister. It's called Achi Women Supporting Women Association, where we just work together to build women. It's kind of like a sorority, a sisterhood of women, where we are there for each other in every aspect of their life, whether financially, spiritually, career-wise, and we just have a sisterhood of women. And through that, I host award shows where we honor women giving back to their communities, and we highlight nonprofit organizations ran by women or supporting women. So that's my background as far as that. And then, of course, I have my acting, which is my passion that I am pursuing now, along with Achi.
Awesome. When we talk a little bit more, I'm gonna delve a little bit into your military background and how you came out. But before we do that, I'd like to next talk to Kodovi and just have you introduce yourself. I had an opportunity to meet you in 2015 through a mutual friend, and then you came to one of my productions. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Kodovi.
Indeed. I am a high school teacher, and I teach art and fashion design. Visual arts, fine arts is my background. I am mompreneur to 5 sons. And I am delving back into my creative art self. I'll begin again in 2018 doing gallery shows and things like that. I've published 7 books, and I write. And so even more so than an artist, I now call myself a maker. I make things. I create from my hands and my heart and my head, and hopefully manifest something that's productive or visually pleasing or needed or tells a narrative. A lot of my work tells the narrative of women and girls. I think oftentimes our stories are short-sighted or not given the right perspective. And so through my art, I consider myself a visual griot. I tell our stories through the art I make.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. And so I'm going to go ahead and begin talking about conceptually how we got here. There was a production done a couple of years back that dealt with some aspects of men, and during the production, a lot of women had comments about the missing women that were in the discussion. There is tendency also in society to kind of point the finger at the guy and say, okay, you're wrong, this is what you've done wrong. And so I wanted to now provide an opportunity for women to get together, have that discussion to figure out if there is something missing and if we can bridge the gap. So I'm going to start first with Natasha. Natasha, when you were in the military, something happened. Would you like to share what happened? And would you like to share what happened when you were in the military that kind of led you to leave?
Okay, well, when I was in the military, I was a firefighter, which is a male-dominated field. I was the only female in all of my shops, which was fine with me. He used to call me the princess, which was also fine with me, but I worked alongside men. But during that time, I had special operations in Japan. There was a lot going on. And just from the overwhelming amount of, I guess, stress is what they called it, I suffered a stroke, which affected my left side and left me temporarily blind in my left eye for a bit of time, or 6 months. And it really just took a toll on me because I planned to spend my entire 20 years and retire from the military. I was doing extremely well. I was advancing very quickly, and I was certified in everything. I was qualified in everything. I was, Army trained, and I was on the, on the front end on some of the rescue operations that we had in Japan, dealing with radiation, dealing with radiological testing, so on and so forth. So when I suffered my stroke, it was kind of like bad timing for what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And because of that, I had to separate from the military. And, it took a toll on me. I wasn't sure exactly what direction I was supposed to be going in life, what I was supposed to be doing, why was this happening. I had the perfect plan. I was I had everything together and I was doing well. And, it took a toll on me, and I went to a little depression. I went into a depression for a while, and it took me a while to get myself back together, which, led me to get involved with Achi Women Supporting Women Association, where we have a community of women who support each other and get each other through, those tough times. But yeah, that's what happened to me. And now looking back on it, I'm glad it happened the way it happened, because I'm loving this new direction that I'm going. I'm loving this new life, this new, I'm happy. I didn't realize I wasn't as happy as I could have been. I thought I was on top of the world then. I'm really on top of the world now. So I'm happy it happened that way, and I survived that. So, yeah.
Well, I think I remember when you told me the story that there was somebody that, and we're not going to implicate who the individual was, but were you engaged? And I mean, just in general, no specifics, but were you dating and then it broke off? Is that what happened?
When it rains, it pours. I was also in a long-term relationship, and talking about wedding bells and all that stuff. And I had I didn't realize it but I had really changed who I was as a person to try to conform to my the standards my spouse had for me. And I didn't realize that, in the midst of that, I kind of really lost myself. I did. And to the point where, I would literally look in the mirror and I would say to myself, who are you? I don't recognize you. I don't recognize you. I had family that hadn't, my best friend, my cousin that I grew with, hit me until she came to visit me. Right after I separated from the military, she came to come and visit me and to check on me. She's California now. She came to California to visit me and check on me. And she said, Natasha, I don't know who you are. You are not yourself. And what happened was he had a very specific plan for his life, and I fit his mold.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was no longer in the military, I was no longer that person. I no longer fit his mold. I didn't know, I went through some things. I didn't know exactly how I was going to contribute to his success. When he'd asked me, how do I plan on contributing to his success? I didn't have an answer because I didn't know what I was going to do.
Okay, pause right there.
And that happened.
Okay, so pause right
Okay. Whoa, but we get deep now. Lord have mercy.
Right. So, and I appreciate the candid nature with which you're sharing this. Let me just ask a general question. How do you think he came to this mindset of fitting a mold? Like, where do you think that may have started? Like, when you mentioned being in a mold, like, where do you think that came from in his mindset?
I think that he had, there's a certain way that women are supposed to be. Where there's a certain, and that's just society. There's a certain, societal standard that women are supposed to have, and he had an idea for what I was supposed to be and how I was supposed to act and what I was supposed to do, and and then when I fell short of those things, I was replaceable, definitely.
Okay.
So that worked out for me.
All right. So I'm going to go to Kodavai at this time. So Kodavai, you have 5 sons, and would you tell me?
I do.
Would you tell me like the age range of your kids?
I have twins that will be 18 tomorrow, and I have a 16-year-old, and then I have 10-year-old twins.
Wow! So
I had my sons in rapid succession because they were coming by twos.
Wow! Are you having a big birthday?
Well, they don't want one. They want to go eat good sushi. So.
Oh, sushi! Yeah. Okay.
They want to go eat good sushi, so no. Yeah, they're pretty low-key kids, and they're their mother's children, so they want to go eat sushi. I'm like, great. So we'll do that tomorrow.
Okay.
But, yeah, so 18-year-olds who are about to go off to college, a 16-year-old who's a solo, and then another set of twins that are 10, and they're all boys.
Wow. Okay, so what types of things do you teach your sons from the standpoint of what types of principles do you teach your sons, just in general?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic with my sons because my type of parenting is very non-traditional.
How so?
I was raised in a very traditional home.
Uh-huh.
I listen to my kids. My kids come in and talk to me pretty much about everything, and I let them talk without judgment. I don't give them advice unless they ask for it or I see they need direction. And so not only them, but their friends are free to come and just speak to me about various things.
Right.
I came from a very traditional home. My mother and father, had my mom not passed away in April, they would have been married 50 years this August.
Wow.
And so I grew up in a household with a father present, and I had one brother who was still very present. And so I understand what it means to actually be a man versus playing that role.
Whoa.
And so the things I'm instilling in my boys are not only how to care for themselves, but how to be of service and care for others. They all cook, they all clean, they all do laundry. They know how to care for a baby. They manage their money. Because my thing with them has always been, when you choose your partner for life, I want you to choose somebody because you want them, not because you need someone to take care of you. I don't like the imagery that people put out there of men child. Like there's such a child in a man's body. There's a lot of fully realized men out there.
Mhm.
But it starts when they're younger, and also starts with them seeing how men conduct themselves and how it's done, and also seeing how women are treated. I'm single right now. I'm a single mom. I was married 14 years. I've been raising them by myself for 6. And people always say to me, you have great kids. I'm like, yes, I do. They're like, how are you raising 5 boys in this society? I was like, the same way you raise any child. It's not raising a man or a woman. It's raising a good human being first.
Mm.
Because they're going to get to manhood or womanhood whether you give them the tools to get there or not. It's something intrinsically ingrained in us to become a woman, to become a man. Of course, there are lessons along the way, but if you teach them how to be good human beings and have compassion and have empathy and have all of these emotional connects to those they come in contact with, then they're going to be strong moving about.
Mhm. Okay, excellent.
And so that's how I navigate with them. Mm-hmm.
With regards to your brother, do you think that do you think that he was raised differently than how you're raising your kids? And if so, like what would be one of the main differences?
My brother?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. There was 3 girls with me growing up, 3 girls and 1 boy. There was no secret that my brother was my mother's favorite. My grandmother loved boys. They liked the girls. They did that traditional thing where they raised the women and loved the boys. It was just something that, okay, we know you're her favorite. And we didn't feel a lack of love, but we knew he was her favorite. And I think that's one of the things I did opposite my mother. I wanted to make sure that all of my children, even though they're all boys, felt equally loved and engaged, and that there wasn't favoritism
Mm-hmm.
of any kind. And I think that's kind of formulated the people they're becoming right now.
Wow.
You know, they all think they're all my favorite, which is great. And actually with Natasha, we have quite a bit in common.
How so?
I actually am an alumnus of Kennesaw. I got my master's. I'm an alumnus of Kennesaw. I got my master's there. But we go through these stages of depression because life happens. That's really in support of me, because they're like, just get over it.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you just get over, you know, being depressed, or, you know, you go through these stages of life. Oftentimes, women who are around males, and like me raising male children by myself, I'm not allowed the room to be, you know, infallible.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be down. You have to be up, because you have control of this. You have to raise these boys. There's no downtime for you. There's no rest for the weary. You have got to do this. And so with that whole depression piece, you know, it comes in and you have to fight to get out of that. So I totally get where you were with that on so many levels.
So
now I see it every day within my organization.
Mm-hmm.
If I were, okay, so Natasha,
can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Do you think, because I know I'm not married, I don't have any children, but I am dating. And in dating, I come across men, and I deal with a lot of women, and I wonder sometimes, because my cousin is 2 girls and 1 boy, but they were raised the way she said her brother was favoritism too. And what I notice in dating men is that a lot of times the women, their mothers, will cling to their son.
I think we may have lost Natasha temporarily.
Still right.
Hey.
And I've made a point of not doing that, because I want my son to see, if you're wrong, you're wrong. And you can be wrong. Everything you do is not right just because you say it's so. And so I've seen both ends of the spectrum. And so I understand what you're saying. I think we get a lot of men, and even young men. I teach high school. They get to a level where they're becoming men, And they have this perceived notion that I'm a man, I'm supposed to be able to do these things, but they don't have the tools they need to fully step into it because they've been handicapped in a way by coddling, but a lot of them just simply don't know it. You have men that get to manhood, and I'm talking about from young boys get to manhood, and they don't realize that they are handicapped because that's been the norm for their lives.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I deal with it every day. Ugh.
So what do you think? One of the things that I think is missing is the dialogue between I guess I don't want to say the mothers and their daughters, but certain mothers and certain daughters, or certain aunties and other people's nieces, or something of that nature. How did we get to this point where the dialogue is with the guys as opposed to this healthy dialogue that we're having now? What do you think?
Well, I think one of the things, there is no dialogue. I think there's been a disconnect with all of the technology. As engaged as we are, we're still disconnected. People don't have conversations anymore. Things I remember people sitting around talking about, there is no conversation. I've seen people out on a date or out with their kids where you could be really engaged in great conversation and having conversations, and everybody's on their phone. So as connected as we are disconnected. And now you also have a generation of young men, I would say in their 20s and 30s, who are unable to engage these young men, and the women who are unable to engage these young girls because we're so disconnected in terms of conversation. We think we're talking, but everybody's on their phone. And so the moments, the dinner table, when you go out to eat or you go somewhere as a family, everyone's on their phone. No one's engaging in conversation. A lot of people, it's more comfortable to send a text than to actually talk.
Right.
I think, see, I have a hard time with that only because I'm younger, and I am a millennial, and I'm from the generation of technology, and to me, a text, a lot of times, because I am a texter, I identify that way. A lot of times, I can better put out how I feel, in words, because I can write it down and say what I need to say. I feel like we engage with people, just as much. It's just through social media. And actually, I probably engage with 10 times more people than I would have had it not been for social media. The trend that I notice, and I'm not trying to, I don't know how to say this the right way. I'm not trying to attack, but the trend that I notice in dating men is I notice a lot of single parent homes. And I'm not talking about where there was an active father and an active mother. I'm talking about where there was no father at all, and the mother was young. So I'm dating because of my age range. I'm 29, and I noticed that you came from a single parent, and your parent had you at 19. So your single mom was only 19, and she was completely single. She was barely a woman herself, barely mature enough herself to give you give you guidance. And then for her, what she says to her son is, just because you didn't have a father doesn't mean you'll go without. So I'm going to give you extra because you're missing a father, and I don't want my son to feel like he was missing anything. But at the same time, she can teach her daughter to be a replica of herself. And she herself is a strong, independent, resilient woman who has to be both, play the part of mom and dad, has to be both the breadwinner and the nurturer. And she's only young. She's young, but she teaches her son, she tells her son, my son will not go without. My son will not feel less. My son will not feel like he doesn't have the same everything that every other man has because he doesn't have a father. But my daughter, she'll be just like me.
Well, I have a question and a concern about that. If the mom, the 19-year-old mom at the time, makes that vow and makes that commitment, then who or what type of woman is she setting that guy up for? I mean, I would think that it would instill some sort of sense of, well, if that's what my mom is doing, then this is what I'm going to expect my next to do.
Right.
Mhm.
And so then when the,
I'm not sure if
so when
it's
the man,
fair on the next person to have to become the everything for this guy. But
right. So when he meets,
Yeah.
me, you know, I'm 30 years old or 29 years old. I'm financially stable and independent. I got good credit and educated and
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's looking at me like, oh, you're my mom. You're my mom's replacement. You're
okay,
supposed to be the
Mhm.
one to take care of me now. And now I keep running into these situations where with men where I have to help him. I have to be the rider while he gets himself together and fixes himself. And I don't know if it's necessarily, I don't know exactly what it is, but the trend that I notice so much is either they came from a young single parent or all of their friends came from a young single parent.
okay. So
And
Codify,
that they were, and yeah, they mean, because you spend 4 hours a day with your mom, but you spend 8 hours a day at school. Those
Mhm.
are your bigger influence. So now all your homies are all doing the same. I mean, and of course, I can't just say like, oh, it's 100%. It ain't. But we're not talking about all of them. We're talking about the ones we have a problem with. You know what I'm saying?
so
Yeah.
Codify, what are your thoughts
Yes.
about this?
Well, you have a lot of good points, and I think it's unfortunate. I think in a lot of single parent homes that the women tend, especially ones with sons, tend to put their young sons in that role of man of the house, and I think it's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
That's not the case in my house, but I see it a lot teaching high school, and these young men, they walk around and they do everything a man's supposed to do, but again, they're ill-equipped with the tools they need to be an actual man. They don't know how to manage things. And I'm 46, so some of the stuff you're talking about with dating, I've had men say, because I own my house, I'm gonna, oh, okay, well, when we get together, I'm just going to move in your house. Nah, bro, no, you're not. Unless you have a house and I have a house and we get married and we decide, and I'm still keeping my house. And so that dynamic you're talking about, if they start that young, consider it carries over to an older age, which is
Right.
exactly the reason why I raise my sons the way I do. My sons don't talk about when I get out of college getting a job. They're planning for the food truck they're going to have. They don't talk about, oh, when I get out and get a girlfriend and a wife. My sons are like, let me get my stuff together because I can't be prepared to bring a wife and a woman, one to my mother's house and one to my house, unless I have a house. They're thinking about buying property at this young age. And so a lot of it is changing the mindset. And I really think my kids are an anomaly amongst other young men now. But what it shows me is that it's possible. And the thing that's going wrong is that we're trying to reprogram the kids, but nobody's reprogramming the parents, especially young parents. I find a lot of times I can get the kids straightened out, but then I meet the parent and I'm like, oh, okay. The parent needs some lessons on a few things and how to navigate because they never got it because like you said, they might have had a young parent or absentee father. You know, I was married 14 years. My kids had their father for 14 years, but he's absent now. And so what I had to make sure to do is put amazing men in their lives so they still see how men conduct themselves. But unfortunately, there are so many single women running households.
Mm-hmm.
You can't possibly insert great men into all of those situations and make the situation better. The problem is way bigger than what we can do as a whole, but I make a point to change every single kid or young parent I come in contact with. I don't have all the answers, but the ones I have, what I know, I share that.
Mm-hmm.
And it may seem like a little microcosm, but sometimes that microcosm can make a huge impact. But you do have a lot of young men out here who want their women to be there. Okay, you're just going to pick up where my mom left off. I'm not willing. I am so not willing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody should be willing. Okay, so we have just about 8 minutes left. So This is a microcosm here. We're bridging generations. And
I love
and so if Natasha, if you had an opportunity to speak to your ex's mom, what would you say to her about his thought? And then Codify, I'm going to allow for you to respond, and then we'll try to wrap up. So, Natasha,
Okay.
I'm not your current, but your ex. Considering everything you've been through, if you had an opportunity to speak to this woman, we'll call her Sally for now. What would you say, and about your experience?
Okay, let me think, because I don't want to tell you how I really feel. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I understand.
Look, first of all, I got a lot to say. But you know what? I think that that's hard. I don't think I've even dealt with that, because healing is a process. And I don't even think I've even reached to that point in my own process to think about that. But I think that he needs to realize that a life partner, someone you choose to spend your life with, and someone that you choose to be your spouse, shouldn't be, I don't even know how to, it shouldn't be about, it's not a business partner. It's not a financial gain. They're not they're not a financial investment. When you look at a person, for that person, instead of what can that person do for me?
Okay.
How can this person contribute to what I want? I make my own cake. You can be the icing on my cake, but my cake is on its own.
Indeed.
I am not the flour to your cake. You need to have your own. He needs to be a whole person, and I should be a whole person, and then we come together. When my financial situation changes, yours will change, but that's not the reason why you're with me.
Right.
You're not with me because I can add to your portfolio. What the heck?
Okay. So now, so Kodavai, in response to, what would you say to Natasha based on what she said? You're not the mom, but what is your response to this?
As a mother, or to what she was saying?
Both.
As a mother, your ex still has a lot of growing to do into manhood. Numbers do not, and age don't meet wisdom. And I agree, it should have been a partnership, because when you're with someone, at the end of the day, y'all's finances are together. Your happiness and joys, they ebb and flow, but there has to be a medium space. And if one person is out after, some incidental or a few incidental things, they probably weren't the right person for you anyway.
Right. Thank the Lord.
So you need somebody that's a equally fit partner for you. And if he ran at first sign of something that looked different than what he thought it was going to look like, be glad he's still not here.
I am.
And as a mother, she handicapped him in some ways. If his view of what a relationship could possibly be that narrow, that if it did not fit his ideal, he could end it that quickly, and was it really love? And does he know what love is if he could just walk away from somebody he professed to care about? Especially if y'all were talking marriage. So he still has a lot of growing up to do, and hopefully he's out of mom's house. He's going to have to find his way with that. And maybe it wasn't with you he found it out, but if he still has that narrow mindset, eventually he's going to find it out. And let's hope he has not gotten married to do that, because marriage is a series of ebbs, flows, lemony snickets. It's not a perfect business situation. Things go wrong. Things happen. People get sick. Money comes and goes. If you're in a partnership with someone in a marriage and you can't get with the ebb and flow, then you're already doing the relationship a disservice.
Yeah. If anything, I wanted to provide a place of validation for everyone's decisions. Kodavai, for your decisions on how you raised your sons, and Natasha, for your decision to hit the ground running and move on from this situation. And I'm hoping that conversations like this could help people grow and move forward and become who they need to be. I'm very thankful for what you both bring to the table. I'm hoping that, Natasha, your organization continues to help foster the growth of women. And I know, Codify, when you're teaching the high school students and using the art to be able to express themselves, and if you haven't seen your website is sagebelly.com, right?
Well, I actually took it down. I'm rebranding right now under Codify.com. But there's art on my Instagram and my webpage. Instagram and my Facebook. So you're free to send Natasha the link. I would love her to see my work.
I will. And when I did a search on Sage Belly, and it brought me to your website. So I would love for people to, because you have a lot of women art there. And you also have a perspective of women art. And then the same thing with Natasha. What is the name of your website for your organization?
You can go to WSWassociation.com. That stands for Women Supporting Women Association.com. WSW Association. Or check us out at ACHI, ACHI magazine.com. ACHI magazine. ACHI is the name of the magazine. ACHI stands for, it means strength and sisterhood. So ACHI, ACHI magazine.com. or WSWassociation.com.
Excellent.
And the best place to find me is on my Instagram at Kottavei, Kottavei. And ironically enough, Laura, for the last 3 days I've been off, all I've been painting is couples.
Wow.
Out of nowhere, I was like, I'm painting love. I'm going to paint couples. I've been painting couples for the last 3 days.
And we also have a little bit more in common too, because I'm a theater major, but I do work in the school systems. I do a substitute teaching, but I also do a lot of volunteer work. And that's my ultimate goal, is to be an art teacher so that I can impact the youth in a positive way.
Well, let's connect, because
So,
I did
hey, David.
for theater.
I'm going to connect you guys. In either case, thank you guys so much for your time. And
thank you so much.
I'm going to connect you after this is